I forgot to tell my daughter the cameras were back online, and when I checked the footage the next morning, my heart sank into my boots. My daughter Anna, the girl I'd raised with every ounce of love I had, and her husband Thomas were caught on tape, plotting in whispers. Their plan was cold, calculated, and cruel. Stage a gas leak in my basement, let me pass out, and make it look like I'd taken a fatal tumble down the stairs. All for the insurance money and the value of my house. I sat there staring at the screen, my coffee gone cold in my hand. The man I'd been, the father who'd built a life for his family, felt like a stranger now. Anna's voice, so familiar yet so foreign, talked about payouts like my life was just a number on a check. And Thomas, nervous but complicit, nodded along. I wasn't just facing betrayal from my own flesh and blood. I was staring into the eyes of something darker, something that had been hiding in plain sight. What do you do when the people you love most turn against you? Imagine sitting in your own home watching your daughter plan your end. What's your next move? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're listening from. I'm George Larson, and this is the story of how a forgotten detail about my cameras turned me from a target into a survivor. It was a crisp October afternoon in my little corner of suburban Chicago, the kind of day that makes you feel alive. I stood in my garage running my calloused hands over the newly repaired security camera system, feeling that old familiar pride. For 42 years I'd been a plumber, fixing leaks, unclogging pipes, making homes safe and sound. At 68, my knees creaked a bit, but my hands still knew their way around a wrench better than most youngsters. This house, the one I built back in 1990, was my legacy. Every pipe I'd laid, every faucet I'd installed, it was all mine, a testament to a life of hard work. After my wife Ellen passed 10 years ago, I thought about selling. The memories in these walls, her laughter in the kitchen, Anna's first steps in the living room, were almost too heavy to bear. But this was home, not just for me, but for Anna, my only daughter. When her life hit rough patches, I wanted this place to be her soft landing. What kind of father would I be if I didn't give her that? The cameras had been down for 3 weeks after a gas line mishap fried the circuits. I'd spent that Thursday morning rewiring, testing and tweaking until every lens was sharp, every microphone picking up the faintest whisper. I was proud of that system, top-notch, better than anything those overpriced security companies could install. Around 5:30, I heard car doors slam. Anna and Thomas right on time for our weekly Sunday dinner. I wiped my hands on my old flannel shirt and headed to the front door. Anna's laugh echoed from the driveway, bright and warm, like it used to be when she was a little girl. But lately something about it felt off. Forced, maybe. Thomas, always a bit quiet, gave me a quick hug, his smile tight. "Hey, Dad," Anna said, her voice all sunshine. "How's the old place holding up?" "Can't complain," I said, leading them inside. "Been tinkering in the garage, keeping these old hands busy." Thomas nodded, but his eyes darted away. "You're always working, George. Ever think about slowing down?" "Slowing down's for folks who don't know what to do with themselves," I chuckled, brushing it off. But Anna's next words caught me off guard. "You know, Dad, you should really update your insurance. A house like this, it's worth a lot these days." Her tone was casual, but her eyes were sharp, like she was measuring something. Over pot roast and mashed potatoes, I watched them closer than usual. Maybe it was the plumber in me, trained to spot leaks before they flood the house. Anna kept steering the talk to property values, asking if I'd had the house appraised lately. Thomas barely touched his food, mumbling vague answers about his job search. "Any luck with those interviews, Thomas?" I asked, cutting into my roast. "Market's tough," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. "But I've got some leads." "Wonderful," Anna jumped in, her smile too perfect. "You're so generous, Dad, helping us out with that monthly check. $800 goes a long way." Something about the way she said it made my skin prickle, like she was owed it, not grateful for it. I'd always helped them, paid for Anna's college, bailed Thomas out of a few bad spots. But tonight, their questions felt different, like they were probing for something more. Then Anna mentioned an old friend of mine, Raymond Foster, out of the blue. "You ever hear from Ray anymore, Dad? He used to talk about you like you were family." Raymond, my old plumbing partner, hadn't crossed my mind in years, not since I had to let him go for skimming cash from jobs. "Why bring him up now?" I shrugged it off, but a knot started forming in my gut. Something wasn't right, and I was about to find out just how wrong things could get. Dinner that Sunday evening felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was holding its breath. Anna's laughter filled the dining room, but it didn't warm me like it used to. Her questions about the house, the insurance, the value of my old Chicago property, they kept coming, sharp and pointed, like she was testing the pipes for a weak spot. Thomas, meanwhile, barely looked up from his plate, his fork pushing potatoes around like he was solving a puzzle he didn't want to face. I'd spent 42 years as a plumber, spotting problems before they burst, and something about this night was leaking bad, so, "Dad," Anna said, leaning forward with that too bright smile, "have you thought about upgrading your security system? Those old cameras of yours, they've got to be on their last legs." I was about to tell her I'd spent the whole morning getting those cameras back in tip-top shape. Every lens crystal clear, every microphone picking up whispers from across the house. But before I could open my mouth, the phone rang. It was Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, my neighbor from 2 doors down, her voice shaking. "George, I'm so sorry to bother you, but there's water pooling in my basement. I don't know what to do since Frank passed." "Of course, Dorothy," I said, already grabbing my jacket. "I'll be right over." I turned to Anna and Thomas, who were already standing, gathering their coats like they couldn't wait to leave. "Sorry, kids, duty calls. Neighbors come first." "No worries, Dad," Anna said, her smile still perfect, but her eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place. Thomas just nodded, avoiding my gaze. "We should get going anyway," he mumbled. I walked them to the door, that knot in my gut tightening. Anna's questions about the security system, Thomas's nervous silence, it all felt wrong, like a pipe ready to burst. As their car pulled away, I realized I'd completely forgotten to mention the cameras were working again. Dorothy's call had thrown me off, and my mind was still half in the garage, replaying their strange behavior. Tomorrow, I told myself, I'd tell them over coffee and run a full test of the system. After all, 42 years of troubleshooting plumbing problems taught me one thing. You catch the real issues when people think nobody's watching. Friday morning came with that sharp October chill that makes everything feel a little clearer. I'd slept poorly, my mind chewing over the tension at dinner. By 10 a.m., I was in my garage with a fresh cup of coffee, ready to test the cameras. The monitors flickered to life, showing every corner of my house in high definition. The audio was so crisp I could hear the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I smiled to myself, 42 years of work, and I could still outdo those fancy security firms charging an arm and a leg. Then I heard it, a key turning in the front door. The timestamp read 10:15 a.m. Through the living room camera, I watched Anna and Thomas slip inside, moving like they owned the place. But they weren't supposed to be here. Anna had mentioned errands, and Thomas was supposedly at a job interview. My finger hovered over the intercom button, ready to call out, but something stopped me cold. They weren't acting like family dropping by for a visit. Anna glanced around, checking corners, listening for me. Thomas trailed behind, his shoulders hunched, like a man carrying a weight he couldn't shake. "They're still broken, right?" Anna whispered, her voice sharp through the speakers. "Those cameras haven't worked since that gas line surge." Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, but going through his stuff feel wrong, Anna." Her laugh cut through the air, cold and unfamiliar. "Wrong. Thomas, we've been over this. Saturday morning, we make it look like a gas leak in the basement. Your dad's always down there tinkering with pipes. It's perfect. Nobody will question it. My coffee slipped from my hand, splashing across the garage floor. A gas leak. My basement. They weren't here to steal. They were planning to kill me. Anna, are you sure? Thomas's voice trembled. There's got to be another way. There isn't, she snapped. We need the money, Thomas. You know what happens if we don't pay up by Monday. I sat frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. The cameras I'd forgotten to mention were about to become the only thing standing between me and a grave. The garage felt colder now, the hum of the monitors like a heartbeat in my ears. I sat there, staring at the screen, my hands trembling as Anna's voice sliced through the speakers. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp, she said, her tone all business, like she was planning a grocery run, not my funeral. We let the gas leak in the basement. He's always down there, messing with those old pipes. He passes out, takes a fall down the stairs. It's clean, Thomas. By noon, we're calling 911, playing the grieving family. My chest tightened, like someone had clamped a wrench around my heart. Anna, my little girl, the one I'd carried on my shoulders, taught to ride a bike, was plotting to kill me. For what? I leaned closer to the monitor, straining to catch every word. The insurance pays out $250,000, Anna continued, spreading papers across my coffee table. And this house? Appraised at $700,000 last year. That's enough to clear your debts and give us a fresh start, Thomas paced, his voice barely above a whisper. Debts? I know, Anna, but it's my father-in-law. Your dad, doesn't that mean anything? Anna's laugh was sharp, like a pipe cutter slicing through metal. He's 68, Thomas. He's had a good run. Besides, we don't have a choice. You owe $60,000 to people who don't take sorry for an answer. Monday's the deadline. $60,000. That's what my life was worth to them. I gripped the edge of my workbench, my knuckles white. I'd bailed Thomas out before, car loans, credit cards, thinking it was just bad luck. But gambling debts, that was a new low. Then Anna's voice dropped, colder than I'd ever heard it. It's not our first time, you know. Edith Parker in Milwaukee, she was easy. Old lady, no family, big house. A little accident with her furnace, and the estate was ours. No questions asked, my blood turned to ice. Edith Parker. The name rang a bell. Some poor widow I'd read about in the papers, dead after a gas leak, ruled accidental. Anna wasn't just desperate. She was a predator, and I was next on her list. Who's helping us with this? Thomas asked, his voice shaking. You keep saying we, but it's not just us, is it? Anna hesitated, just for a second. Someone who knows how to make things look right. Someone who's done this before. Don't worry about it, Thomas. He's got everything under control. I leaned closer, my breath catching. Someone else. A third player in this nightmare. My mind flashed to Raymond Foster, the old plumbing partner Anna had mentioned at dinner. Ray, who'd been like a brother until I caught him skimming cash from clients 20 years ago. I'd fired him, cut him out of my life. Why was his name coming up now? Was it him pulling the strings? I shook my head. No, it couldn't be. But the seed was planted, and it wouldn't let go. Anna kept talking, laying out the plan like a blueprint. Saturday, you're here early, checking on Dad like the devoted son-in-law. I'm upstairs making coffee, acting normal. He goes to the basement like he always does. The gas does the rest. We wait an hour, maybe two, before calling for help. By then it's too late. Thomas stopped pacing, his face pale. What if someone suspects something? The police, the neighbors. They won't, Anna said, her voice dripping with confidence. It's a 30-year-old house with old pipes. Gas leaks happen, and Dad's always been stubborn about doing his own repairs. It's believable, Thomas. Trust me, trust her. The irony hit me like a hammer. I'd trusted Anna my whole life, poured everything into raising her after Ellen died. I'd built this house for her, for us, and now she was turning it into my tomb. But she didn't know one thing. Those cameras she thought were dead were watching every move, recording every word. That forgotten detail, that one slip of my memory, was the only thing keeping me alive right now. I sat back, my mind racing. 2 days. I had 2 days to turn this around, to take back control. Anna and Thomas thought they were hunting me, but they were about to walk into a trap of their own making. The garage felt like a fortress now, my workbench a war room. The monitors glowed with the truth. Anna and Thomas, my own daughter and her husband, plotting to end my life for money. My hand, steady from years of threading pipes, shook as I replayed the footage. Anna's cold voice, planning a gas leak in my basement, echoed in my head. But I wasn't the helpless old man they thought I was. I'd spent 42 years fixing leaks before they flooded homes. This was just another problem to solve, and I had 2 days to do it. I took a deep breath, the October air sharp in my lungs, and got to work. First, I needed help, people I could trust. I grabbed my phone and dialed Laura Bennett, a lawyer I'd known since she helped me settle Ellen's estate a decade ago. Her voice was calm but firm when I told her I needed an emergency meeting. "George, what's going on?" she asked. "It's bad, Laura," I said, my voice low. "I'm talking about a murder plot. My daughter's involved." There was a long pause, then. "I'm clearing my afternoon. Get here by 1 Next, I called Dr. Ellen Carter, my physician for 15 years. If Anna and Thomas were planning to paint me as some confused old man, I needed proof my mind was sharp as ever. Ellen agreed to an urgent cognitive evaluation that afternoon. "George, you sound shaken," she said. "Whatever's happening, we'll get you through it." By noon, I was backing up the camera footage to a cloud drive, every damning word saved where no one could touch it. I added 2 more micro cameras in the basement, hidden in the ceiling beams, angled to catch every inch of the space where they planned to stage my accident. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd chosen the basement, my domain, where I knew every pipe, every valve. I'd spent decades making homes safe. Now, I was using that knowledge to save myself. At Laura's office, the smell of coffee and leather grounded me. She was in her late 50s, with eyes that could spot a lie from a mile away. I played the recordings, Anna's voice filling the room like poison. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. gas leak in the basement. He falls down the stairs. We call 911 by noon, grieving family. Laura's jaw tightened. "This isn't just greed, George. This is calculated elder abuse, maybe worse." She mentioned another victim. "Edith Parker in Milwaukee?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah. Said it was an accident with her furnace." "Sounded like she's done this before." Laura was already typing. "I'm calling Detective Michael Walsh. He runs the Elder Crimes Unit. And we need a cognitive eval to protect you from any competency challenges. Can you see Dr. Carter by 2:30? "Already set," I said. "Good. I'm also bringing in my private investigator, Tom Grayson. If Anna's tied to other deaths, there'll be a trail." Dr. Carter's clinic was a short drive through streets I'd known my whole life, but they felt foreign now, like I was seeing them through a cracked lens. The cognitive evaluation was thorough. Memory tests, math problems, questions about current events. Ellen's pen moved quickly as she assessed me. "George, your mind's sharper than most 40-year-olds, she said, signing the paperwork with a flourish. "Whatever you're up against, this proves you're not imagining it. Trust your instincts." By 3:30, I was back at Laura's office, where Tom, the investigator, had news that hit like a punch. "Anna Mitchell's not on our radar, but there's a pattern. Edith Parker, 78, died in Milwaukee 2 years ago. Gas leak, ruled accidental, but the estate went to a distant relative who sold it fast." "Sound familiar?" My stomach churned. "Anna said she helped Edith." Tom nodded, spreading files across the desk. We dug deeper. "There's a name tied to that case, Jennifer Holt. No record, but it's likely an alias. And here's the kicker. She was linked to a man we've been tracking, Raymond Foster." Raymond Foster. The name landed like a lead pipe. My old plumbing partner, fired 20 years ago for stealing from clients. Anna had mentioned him at dinner, casual as anything. Was he the someone she'd hinted at? I pushed the thought aside, but it clung like damp rot. "Raymond's got a history. Tom continued. Fraud, theft, suspected elder abuse across 3 states. Never convicted, but he's slippery. If he's involved, your evidence could crack this wide open. Laura leaned forward. We've got 36 hours until Saturday morning. Detective Walsh can move on existing warrants if we confirm Raymond's role. Your recordings are gold, George. Legally obtained, admissible, devastating. What about Anna and Thomas? I asked, my voice cracking. They're my family. Laura's expression softened. Conspiracy to commit murder is serious, but if Thomas cooperates, there's a chance for leniency. Anna, if she's tied to Raymond, she's in deeper than you think. By 5, our plan was solid. Detective Walsh would review the footage tomorrow morning. The cognitive eval protected me from any claims of senility. My bank accounts were frozen, property transfers locked down. Laura's team drafted legal protections to shield every asset I had, but I wasn't done. Back home, I rigged the basement with a fail-safe, a shut-off valve for the gas line, hidden behind a false panel. If they tried to tamper with it, I'd know. I also set up a redundant recording system, streaming to a second cloud drive. Every word, every move would be captured. Friday evening, Anna and Thomas arrived for dinner, right on schedule. Their smiles were practiced, but I saw the cracks. Thomas's twitching hands, Anna's overly cheerful tone. How's your day been, Dad? Anna asked, settling into a chair. Productive, I said, keeping my voice steady. Took care of some business in town. Oh? Anna's eyes sharpened. Anything important? Just old man stuff, I lied, serving the meatloaf I'd made. Doctor's visits, paperwork. You know how it is. They exchanged a glance, quick but loaded. After dinner, Anna stepped outside to make a call. The cameras caught every word. It's set for tomorrow, 8 a.m., she said, pacing the driveway. The old man's clueless. Bring the tools to stage the gas leak. We're good. I stood at the sink, washing dishes, listening as they planned my death like it was a weekend chore. Thomas's voice came through the audio, low and desperate. I don't know, Anna. Looking him in the eye, knowing what we're doing. You owe 60 grand, she snapped. You think those guys care about your feelings? It's him or us, Thomas. Choose. The word hung in the air, heavy as a sledgehammer. My daughter had chosen money over me, but she didn't know I'd chosen something too. Survival. I poured myself a rare glass of bourbon and sat in my armchair, the house quiet except for the hum of my cameras. Tomorrow morning, Anna and Thomas would walk through my door thinking they were in control. But I'd spent 42 years fixing problems before they broke. This was one leak I wasn't letting flood my life. Saturday morning broke with a quiet that felt like the calm before a storm. I was up before dawn, coffee in hand, checking every camera, every wire, every valve in my basement. The house hummed with the silent pulse of my security system, every lens ready to capture the truth. I'd spent 42 years as a plumber, fixing leaks before they ruined homes. Today I was fixing something bigger, my life. Anna and Thomas thought they were coming to end me at 8 a.m. sharp. Instead, they were walking into a trap I'd built with my own hands. I sat in my living room, the same armchair where I'd read bedtime stories to Anna when she was little. The weight of her betrayal sat heavy in my chest, but I pushed it down. There was no time for grief, not yet. Detective Michael Walsh and his tactical team were already in position, hidden around the property, waiting for my signal. Laura Bennett, my lawyer, had sent me a text. Everything's ready, George. Stay sharp. I was ready. More than they'd ever know. At 7:58, I heard the key turn in the lock. My heart thudded, but my hand stayed steady. Anna stepped in first, a thermos of coffee in her hands, her smile as practiced as ever. Thomas followed, clutching a bouquet of flowers, his alibi for showing up early. Dad, you're up early, Anna said, her voice dripping with false warmth. Thought we'd check in before you got your day started. Before you killed me at 8, I said, my voice calm as still water. The silence was deafening. The flowers slipped from Thomas's hands, scattering across the floor like petals at a funeral. Anna's smile froze, her eyes narrowing. Dad, what a strange thing to say. Are you feeling okay? Not confused at all, Anna, I said, picking up the tablet beside my chair. Let me show you how clear my head is. I tapped the screen, and the living room filled with her voice, cold and sharp from the recordings. Saturday morning, 8 a.m., gas leak in the basement. He falls down the stairs. We call 911 by noon, grieving family. Thomas's face went white as bone, his knees buckling as he sank into a chair. Oh, God, he whispered, burying his head in his hands. Anna's mask held for a moment longer, then cracked. You've been recording us, she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. Since Thursday, I said, scrolling through the files. Every word, every plan. Edith Parker in Milwaukee. Your real game, Anna, and the man pulling your strings. Her eyes widened, just a flicker, but I caught it. What are you talking about? She snapped. Raymond Foster, I said, watching her closely. You're someone who's done this before. My old partner, the one I fired for stealing. He's the one who set this up, isn't he? Thomas's head shot up, his voice breaking. Raymond? Anna, you said it was just us. Shut up, Thomas, she snarled, but her composure was unraveling. Dad, you're paranoid. Those cameras were broken. You're making this up. I fixed them Thursday morning, I said, standing now, my voice steady as iron. Forgot to mention it. Luckiest mistake of my life. You thought you were invisible, Anna, but I saw everything. And so will the police. As if on cue, the front door burst open. Detective Michael Walsh stormed in, badge flashing, his tactical team fanning out behind him. Chicago PD? Nobody move. Laura Bennett followed, her briefcase stuffed with legal documents. Her eyes locked on Anna. Anna Mitchell, Thomas Reed. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and elder fraud, Walsh said, his voice like gravel. And we've got warrants tied to the death of Edith Parker in Milwaukee. Anna's face twisted with rage, but before she could speak, another figure stepped through the door. Raymond Foster. He was older now, his hair gray, but that sly grin was unmistakable. George, what's all this? He said, his voice dripping with fake concern. I just came to check on you after Anna mentioned you weren't feeling well. I stared at him, my blood boiling. Nice try, Ray, I said, tapping the tablet again. A new recording played, one I dug up from an old answering machine, saved from 20 years ago when I'd fired him. His voice, younger but unmistakable. You'll regret crossing me, George. I'll take everything you've got. The room went still. Raymond's grin vanished. Thomas turned to Anna, his voice desperate. You said it was just us. You didn't tell me Raymond was running this. Running what? Raymond said, his tone too smooth. I'm just an old friend. No, you're not, I said. You're the one who put this in motion. The gambling debts, the threats, the plan to make my death look like an accident. You used Thomas's debts to pull Anna in, didn't you? Just like you used others to scam Edith Parker. Walsh stepped forward, cuffs in hand. Raymond Foster, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and suspected homicide. We've been tracking you for years. Thanks to George, you're done. Anna lunged forward, her voice a scream. You don't understand, Dad. It was never personal. Raymond said it was the only way. Personal? I said, my voice breaking for the first time. Anna, you're my daughter. I raised you, loved you, gave you everything, and you chose $60,000 over me. Thomas sobbed, his head in his hands. I didn't want this, George. Raymond said it'd look natural, that no one would get hurt. I was scared, trapped, I repeated, the word bitter in my mouth. You had a choice, Thomas. You both did. The cuffs clicked shut on Anna, then Thomas, then Raymond. Walsh's team moved with precision, dismantling a plan that had been years in the making. Laura stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder. You did it, George, she whispered. You stopped them. As they were led away, I looked at Anna, searching for the little girl I'd raised. But all I saw was a stranger, her eyes cold and unyielding. Raymond, though, met my gaze with a smirk, like he still thought he'd won. He hadn't. Not today. The clock on my mantel ticked to 7:45 a.m. 15 minutes ago, I was supposed to be dead at the bottom of my basement stairs. Instead, I was standing tall, the man who'd turned the tables on a killer. But the victory felt hollow, weighed down by the loss of the daughter I thought I knew. The house felt different after they were taken away. The same walls, the same creaky floors, but every corner held the echo of betrayal. I stood in my living room, staring at the scattered flowers Thomas had dropped, petals like fragments of a life I thought I knew. Anna's cold eyes as the cuffs went on, Thomas's broken sobs, Raymond Foster's smug grin. It all played in my mind like a loop I couldn't shut off. But I wasn't the man they'd planned to bury. I was George Larson, 68 years old, a plumber who'd spent a lifetime fixing leaks before they flooded. And I wasn't done fixing things yet. 6 months later, I sat in the courthouse gallery, the air heavy with the weight of justice. Anna faced the judge, her face blank as the gavel came down. 20 years for conspiracy to commit murder and her role in Edith Parker's death in Milwaukee. The prosecutor laid it out. Anna had been Raymond's pawn, drawn in by promises of quick money to clear Thomas's debts. But she'd made her choices, and they led her here. Thomas got 7 years, a lighter sentence for cooperating, turning state's evidence against Raymond. His tearful apology in court didn't erase the sting, but it showed a flicker of the man I'd hoped he'd be. Raymond Foster, though, was the real prize. The judge's voice was steel as she sentenced him to life without parole for orchestrating a criminal network that preyed on seniors across 3 states. My recordings, every word, every plan, were the key that cracked his operation wide open. The FBI linked him to over 25 victims, elderly folks like me, targeted for their homes and savings. Raymond's smirk was gone now, replaced by the blank stare of a man who'd finally run out of moves. As I left the courtroom, Detective Michael Walsh clapped a hand on my shoulder. "George, you didn't just save your own life. You took down a predator who thought he was untouchable. That's no small thing. But justice wasn't enough to fill the hole Anna left. I'd raised her, loved her, built this house for her. Now she was a stranger, locked away for choices I'd never understand. The pain of that betrayal didn't fade, but it sharpened something in me, a purpose I hadn't known I needed. It started with Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, the neighbor whose panicked call about a water leak had saved me that night. I went to her house the next week, toolbox in hand, and installed a full security system. Over coffee, I taught her how to spot the red flags of scams, pushy questions about money, strangers too eager to help. Her eyes lit up with something I hadn't seen since her husband died. "George," she said, clutching the checklist I'd written, "you've given me back my confidence. I feel like I can protect myself now." Word spread fast in our Chicago suburb. Soon, I was in living rooms across the neighborhood, setting up cameras, auditing finances, teaching folks my age how to spot predators. The local police asked me to speak at community meetings. Detective Walsh introduced me with a grin. "This is George Larson, the man who turned his own home into a fortress and stopped a serial scammer in his tracks." I started carrying a notebook, jotting down stories from seniors who'd been targeted, pushy relatives, shady contractors, fake charities. Each one was a reminder of why this mattered. The Ohio Attorney General's office got wind of my work and asked me to help draft elder protection guidelines. My story, the one that started with a forgotten camera, became the heart of a statewide campaign. The message was simple: age isn't weakness. It's wisdom, hard-earned, ready to fight back. My house, once a target, became a training ground. The basement, where Anna and Thomas planned my death, now hosted workshops where I showed neighbors how to install basic security, check their pipes, and protect their savings. Dorothy organized weekly coffee meetups, where we shared tips and celebrated small victories. A scam call reported, a suspicious visitor turned away. The sting of Anna's betrayal never fully left me. It was a scar, a reminder that sometimes the people we love most can hurt us the deepest. But it also taught me something. Family isn't just blood. It's the community that stands by you when trust breaks. Letters started arriving from across the country. Folks who'd heard my story. Seniors who'd confronted their own families about shady behavior, all because they saw what I'd done. One woman in Texas wrote, "George, you showed me I'm not helpless." I stood up to my nephew, and it saved my home. Every letter felt like a brick in a new foundation, one built on purpose. I wasn't just a retired plumber anymore. I was a voice, a guide, a man who'd turned pain into something useful. My calendar filled up. Speaking gigs, consultations, coffee with neighbors who'd become closer than family. The house, once heavy with memories of loss, buzzed with life again. As I stood in my basement, surrounded by tools that had saved me, I realized something. The greatest victory wasn't just surviving Anna and Raymond's plan. It was finding a new kind of family, one that valued my years, my skills, my fight. I'd been marked for death, but I'd chosen to live, not just for me, but for every senior who'd ever felt invisible. 6 months ago, I was supposed to be a memory, my life snuffed out in my own basement for a quick payout. Instead, I'm standing here, stronger than ever, in a house that's no longer just a home, but a beacon for others. I'm George Larson, a plumber who learned the hard way that age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise, tempered by years of fixing what's broken, whether it's pipes or trust. Anna's betrayal cut deep, but it showed me something profound. Sometimes, the family you choose, your community, holds you up when blood lets you down. Every workshop I teach, every camera I install, every neighbor I help, reminds me of a truth we too often forget. Age isn't a liability. It's a toolbox, filled with skills and instincts that can outsmart any predator. My story started with a forgotten camera, but it ended with a purpose. To show folks like us, the ones over 50, that our experience is our strength. God puts us in dark places to find light we didn't know we had. For me, that light was my neighbors, my skills, the fight I didn't know I still had in me. What about you? What stories of trust or betrayal have shaped your life? Have you faced a moment where your wisdom turned the tide? Drop a comment below, share your thoughts, and tell me where you're listening from. Subscribe to hear more stories that prove our years are our greatest weapon. Life's like a pipe system. Sometimes it leaks, sometimes it breaks. But with the right tools and a little faith, we can fix anything. My community taught me that. And now I'm passing it on, one story at a time.